It's literally like the lucky few where I don't know where'd you get your blessing from to where you can go out and rip stuff in mid to upper 90s for hundreds and thousands of innings.
All right, this should work right here. There we go.
Nice.
We're alive. Welcome in.
Here we go.
Sorry about that.
Oh, good.
Using Video Ninja, not my
Hmm.
best, not my strong suit yet, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
So anyway, how you doing, man? Good to talk to you.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Fe-
Enjoying the late season push here.
Yeah, no, I mean, you guys are super in it. Three teams in the AL East fighting it out. Obviously, Red Sox, you guys are trying to clinch that home field and the wild card at least. That would probably be the goal. Starting a big series with the A's tonight. What game are you pitching this series?
Against the A's.
Are you not pitching against the A's?
I'm pitching tomorrow.
You're pitching tomorrow. All right, nice.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been following them a little bit. They have some sneaky hitters. A lot of guys with their hands back early. Kurtz,
Yep.
Langoliers. They're a pretty tricky team. So um, it's kind of funny. Sometimes you play teams down the stretch and they play spoiler. And I think that's what they're trying to do. But
Mm-hmm.
Fenway's been a zoo lately. Am I correct?
It, it's like selling out every game, and the energy's very high. It's
Yeah.
been pretty fun.
Yeah, it looked
It
great. It looked
really
like
has.
watching the Yankee game last night, they definitely had a little bit of a letdown emotionally after being in Fenway for 3 nights and then going to empty Minnesota. So I thought that was interesting.
I saw that. I was following that game a little bit. Yeah, I the starter for the Twins. He had a career start, didn't he?
Yeah,
Woods Richardson.
yeah, 11 strikeouts, career high. He was really
Yeah.
good. Yeah, Splitter was big.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So anyway, thanks for joining me. Let's get it. We'll get into this a little bit. This is the way the show usually works. We head over to this main screen where I kind of have the full iPad capabilities and the Dugout app. So I was
Mm-hmm.
just watching and explaining backdoor versus front door here for
Okay.
this
Cool.
picture. I was just explaining to the chat what that kind of means. But I guess I'm not really into talking too much about current events. I think mainly with you, I have some questions that pertain to your journey, right? Being a
Okay.
being a high school, very highly thought of right-handed pitcher is a very interesting entry point into professional baseball. To me, that has always seemed, and I think the numbers bear out, that's the most volatile subset of players that get drafted. High school righties in the
Oh
first
yeah.
round. Um,
Oh
and
oh yeah.
and the first time that I read about you was in Baseball America, and you were noted for your long arm swing and your fastball and curveball.
Yep.
So that was the initial scouting report. Am I correct?
Yeah. That's spot on.
And then over time, you've obviously evolved quite a bit. The arm actions changed. The pitch mix has changed. Can you talk a little bit about what that process was like?
Yeah, for sure. So I was like the long lever angle, like it was like left arm's going up to the sky, right arm's going back, big arm stab. I think I was like, I think I was always late when I threw like that. I think I was just always late and I made it work somehow. And I actually threw pretty fast. Like as an amateur, I was up to 99, 100 miles an hour. I go into pro ball, have to get Tommy John surgery immediately. Uh,
When did that happen? Did that happen right after you were drafted or prior to being drafted?
Prior to being drafted, so my senior year of high school, I was considered like a top prospect even before the season started. In California, we play baseball. It's year round, and scouts are there watching everything. Like we had winter ball and all that. Me, Freed on the same team. It led to a lot of scouts being around. And so even in preseason, my velocity just kept increasing. It got to the point where uh, most of the at bats aren't competitive anymore
Yeah,
in high
they
school.
just
Like,
can't even make contact.
yeah, yeah. So essentially it was like I'm throwing really fast. I have this big curveball. Everything's over the top. It's just get behind ripping fastballs and ripping curveballs. I'd say back then my curveball was kind of like the Tyler Glasnow curveball. Not at the same level, but it was like that was what we were envisioning, right? Big 100-mile-an-hour fastball with a curveball that falls off the table off of it in like the mid 80s. And my third, fourth start of the regular high school baseball season, I strained my UCL. I'm then out for the rest of the season. And at that point, it was like, oh man, am I going to have to go to college?
Where were you signed
I
to
was
go?
UCLA.
UCLA. Okay, so staying at
Yeah,
home.
so it was it was a very good backup plan as far as if going to the pro ball route wasn't going to work out with my injury. Um, and we did something interesting where I had a torn UCL, but it wasn't like obliterated to where it's like you need Tommy John immediately.
Yeah.
Doctors were saying that yeah, there's a chance you could like rehab it, do rest rehab, PRP injections, all that kind of stuff. So we went and did that, and leading up to the draft, and now I'm out for the season. But leading up to the draft, I remember having these like throwing sessions at my high school where I would just like long toss as part of like my rehab throwing program or whatever. And I would just go out there and long toss, and like a bunch of scouts would show up just to watch me play catch. And it was so surreal because I mean, I had at that point there was like good days and bad days, but I had to like pretend every day was a good day.
Yeah.
I couldn't go out there and be like, "Oh, my elbow hurts today," because that would affect my draft stock, which was already declining. Um, so come draft day, out of nowhere, the Washington Nationals take me 16th overall, and like truly out of nowhere, and in an age where I'm pretty sure that like 90% of dudes know, at least if you're a first round pick, like you have a pretty good idea where you're going. Like your agent's on the phone with them and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
I had no idea. Like I found out watching it on television that the Nationals were picking me.
So
So
going
that I
so
thought that was pretty cool.
so going into that morning, were you expecting to be picked high, or were you thinking I'm definitely going to UCLA at this point?
Um it was there was optimism I would be picked somewhere in the first 3 rounds. I'd
Okay.
say is where we were at. Like enough, there was enough interest in my talent that teams could look past the elbow injury and, Tommy John 100% at some point down the road, right?
It did seem like
And
this was sort of the era where guys were getting drafted with Tommy John. You know, Jeff Hoffman was one who blew out, I believe, in the conference tournament at ECU or Coastal Carolina, whichever one he went to. Still gets drafted like seventh overall. Clark Schmidt was the guy who got drafted immediately with Tommy John. So Tommy John eventually became. It seems like it became sort of this thing where we're like, oh, we know we can fix you. So as long as the talent level's there, we'll go ahead and rehab you. But I think it's super weird to be doing it out of high school, and it also is going to have downstream effects on your own personal player development as you go, right? Because you're already kind of up against it in a weird place, player development wise, being a 100-mile-an-hour thrower in high school, where, like you said, the at bats weren't competitive, nobody was really hitting you. There's no need to really develop a full game and a full skill set at that point. And oftentimes, when I look at the draft and I look at like high school pitchers, like there was one this year, Seth Hernandez out of Corona High School. I don't know if that's the same league as you guys. um, uh,
it's down south, I think, a little bit in Orange County.
and he looked great, like the delivery, the pitch mix, all that sort of thing. But again, he's like 18 years old. It's just known as a very volatile subset. Um, so it's just a very fascinating thing to not only have that working against you, but also the elbow injury so early. So you didn't really get to pitch in pro ball till almost a year after being drafted, I'm guessing.
No, I pitched that year.
Oh, you did pitch that year.
I did, yeah. So I get drafted. One of the first conversations I have, I remember, was with the guy that ran medical down in Florida. I got drafted by the Nationals. I go to Vieira, Florida. Uh,
Space
start
City Stadium or something, right?
Yeah, Space Coast
Yeah,
Stadium.
there it is. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Some good memories there. Living in a La Quinta off the side of the highway, right next door to a Walmart. It was pretty sick. So, I mean,
Everything you dreamed of.
it was so it was yeah, I grew up in LA. It was like complete culture shock, but in the best way, like getting to know all these different personalities, like the Latin side and guys from the South and all that kind of stuff. So that was really fun. But yeah, I mean, baseball wise, I show up. Um, One of the first conversations I have is with uh, the like medical director of the minor league facility, Gulf Coast League team,
Hmm.
right? And I sit down with him, and he's like, "All right, so you're gonna have Tommy John. It's just a matter of when it wants to go."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "All right, yeah." He's like, we'll have you like throw, we'll have you rehab. Um, when you're ready to pitch in games, you'll pitch in games, and we'll see how long this thing lasts. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I thought that was pretty. I love that like honesty right out of the gate. I was like, all right, cool. Like no pressure. I'm gonna get Tommy John at some point here. And remember, this is kind of like right on the heels of Steven Strasburg.
Yep.
So he had come up. He was a mega prospect. A little different than me. He was out of college. He was more polished, and he comes up, blows his arm out, gets Tommy John, comes back, and he's fine. At least for the time being, he was good. So the trust in the surgery and the product like still being okay after the surgery, that's when it was like really starting to become a real thing. Um, or at least it was starting to become so normalized.
Yeah, the arm injuries are so fascinating. Like I had Tommy John 2015, and Dr. Andrews, who did my surgery, he mentioned that he felt like I had hurt my arm probably 9, 10 years prior, but it just
Mhm.
sort of survived and it remained functional for a really long time. There wasn't like that one kaboom sort of moment. It just sort of failed me over time. And I think that's the case for a lot of guys. And then some guys have the opposite. They just completely kaboom. And I feel like every situation's a little bit different, but it's sort of super fascinating to just kind of know that you have a ticking time bomb in your elbow and you're going to go
Yeah.
out there and pitch. That's a weird dynamic to me.
Yeah. It's how it is for everybody now. I mean, there's like the lucky few. It's literally like the lucky few where I don't know where'd you get your blessing from to where you can go out and rip stuff in mid to upper 90s for hundreds and thousands of innings.
I know I played with a few guys that made it through the whole way, like CC Sabathia never had an elbow injury, or
Mhm.
like Latroy Hawkins, and it just never made any sense to me because when you do like a little tally around the clubhouse, a lot more likely that you have a scar on your elbow than not. So you start your
Yeah.
career that way. That's kind of crazy. And did that drive some of your arm action decisions? Because obviously you went from a really long arm swing into a tighter swing that we see nowadays.
Yeah, sorry, I'm going like way too slow through the story. So essentially, uh I ended up getting Tommy John. My first professional outing, it was like my 12th pitch. I blew out completely.
Yeah,
And so I get the surgery. That didn't spur on changing anything. I go through my entire minor league career. I get called up to the big leagues in 16. I'm up and down that year. I was 21, 22. I was not ready.
yeah.
I was not ready mentally, emotionally, and especially physically to pitch in the big leagues. I was I felt like right when I came back from Tommy John, my first couple years, it was it felt like high school. Low A, uh, it's better competition than high school, obviously, but it felt like everything worked. But as the innings started to pile on, it was it became this battle with my mechanics that I was kind of perpetually stuck in. And it was hard to tell. We didn't have like access to the biomechanics stuff that we have now, where you get to look at your timing and where your hips are sitting and where your shoulders are at when you land. So we were working on like good old fashioned video, and I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure out what I needed to do to be more on time and more consistent. So it was kind of a little bit of a battle through that. I get called up to the big leagues out of need. I was in Double A. Strasburg gets hurt, get called up. I had a fine debut, but then I don't think after my debut I ever really pitched effectively in the big leagues in that year. I get traded over to the White Sox. Now it's 2017, still throwing the same way. And what started happening was the four seam curveball combination. Since I wasn't consistent enough of like riding four seamers to the top of the zone and then being able to throw my curveball for a strike, I had to develop other stuff. And so I do kind of joke around that Tommy John gave me my changeup, but it kind of did,
Yeah.
because in my Tommy John like throwing program, I would get so bored that I would like mess with different changeup grips just as I
Hmm.
was playing catch.
This is a really good
And
tip for kids. Like, if you want to have a
yeah.
great changeup, throw it from a long distance, 90 feet, 100 feet, even more, because
Oh
if
yeah.
because that'll keep your effort level where it needs to be, and then if the ball's like not reaching your target, then you're doing a pretty good job killing it, right?
Yes, yes. So I was messing with different changeup grips in my throwing programs. And when I came out of it and I started throwing off the mound again, I had a good feel for a changeup, which I had zero feel for a changeup prior to surgery. And yeah, like my first like couple years uh post TJ, that's like the period of time where you really get some aches and pains in your elbow um when you're throwing. And the way that those would show themselves to me was especially throwing my curveball. Like throwing my curveball made my elbow hurt for some reason in that first couple years post surgery. So I was throwing a lot of changeups, and it got really good. And the curveball kind of was regressing, in my opinion. And it was harder to have feel for it and throw it for strikes. So by the time I'm like in double A, triple A, I'm now developing a slider as well because I needed something that went left.
Yeah, no, it's super fascinating because I was able to develop a changeup earlier in my career as well, and a lot of it's because of like you just don't need it when you're dominating, right? Like in high school,
Mhm.
I mean, I wasn't throwing 100, but over here in New York, throwing 90, 91 with really good breaking stuff was kind of the same level, striking out 17, 18 times a game, guys a game, and it kind of continued into college as my velocity went up. It wasn't until really the major leagues where I was like, holy cow, if I want to get lefties out, I'm probably going to need a changeup. And really, it took a long time. Really, it wasn't until the TrackMan that I was able to get my head wrapped around how to actually do this and figure out how to train it. But I do think there's probably a fair amount of truth to the Tommy John gifting you the changeup, right? Because before that, when you're a fastball breaking ball guy, you're kind of a grip it and rip it type of
Mhm.
guy. You're kind of ramming your arm into extension to fly those curveballs out. That's probably a little uncomfortable on the backside of the elbow there. And it's the same thing with the fastball. Something I used to do a lot was kind of overextend my elbow through a lot of pitches, just kind of thinking that that's what I was supposed to do. That's what extension meant. But
Yeah.
then, over time, you kind of learn that I'm just doing things wrong here. I'm kind of banging joints, things that doesn't need to really happen. But yeah, that changeup, man, what a gift! And you have kind of a unique changeup, a little bit more vert on it, a little bit more carry on it. At times, in some of your best seasons, you've been throwing the changeup up in the zone. Do you feel like there was a learning curve of how to actually access that changeup in games and learn how to use it?
Everything changed when I changed my mechanics. Everything changed. So it, I developed a changeup in the minor leagues, but I was still like very long, levered, and uh, I had the timing issues. there was a lot more arm side run on everything I threw when I had the long arm arm action
So maybe
because
your
I
arm was a little late. That
it
makes
was
sense.
oh it was super late. Yeah. So I had this like I debuted in 16. I had a little bit of big league time in 17 as well. 18 was my first full season in the big leagues. Uh, I was on the White Sox, full rebuild. Everybody's like, just telling me, hey, you're going to be in the big leagues all year, no matter what. You're get here to get experience. It was the best thing that ever happened to me for my career. There's not very many players that get that kind of opportunity. I'm very fortunate.
Yeah.
I was fortunate to be there. It was like right time, right place. Because that doesn't happen. Usually, if you suck, you're going to get sent down. And because that they need guys to be able to get outs. Um, 2018, I couldn't get outs. I walked the house. It was a nightmare. I had a lot of anxiety issues on the mound as well. Um, and so I came out of that season. It was the numbers were like really bad, like ERA north of 6 and whatever else. Yeah, minus 1.3 WAR.
Yeah, I mean, you
Um,
led the league in walks. I mean,
yeah.
I led the AAA PCL in walks a few times, so you have company
hmm
with that. Did you feel like early you didn't trust your stuff in the zone? Was that a lot of it, and you were trying to nibble a little bit?
No, I just had no idea what I was doing.
So it was more of a mechanical issue than anything else at that point. You needed to
It
simplify things.
Well, it was mechanical and mental. Anxiety was really bad when I would go out there. Like I would have like I would like lose feeling in my limbs on the mound.
I can relate to that. As a starter,
Yeah.
I used to feel like because I started my whole minor league career, and actually before that, and the way that I always felt about it was from the moment the game ended the night before, I felt like it was now my day, and that would start the
hmm
feelings coming. So like then I would toss and turn all night, and I would wake up in the morning and I would say, "Oh, I got to get a perfect breakfast, and I have to have a perfect day to set myself up for success." And I'd be so wound so tight worrying about that by the time I got to the rubber at 7 o'clock, I was kind of emotionally spent already. And I had already had dumped a lot of my emotional energy. I don't know if you've ever experienced something similar to that, but that's why when I went to the bullpen, I was super happy about it because I didn't have to have those feelings kicked up from literally like 8 in the morning.
I it's still that way for me. I don't have like superstitions where I need to eat like the right things or whatever. I actually barely eat at all on my start day. But um there I've actually started to like day games more
Yeah.
as I've gotten older because it's like you wake up and go. The
I'll
night
tell you,
games,
I can tell you, Jacob DeGrom, same way. You know, if you go look at
yeah,
his day game stats, way better. There's something about like, let's just do this thing.
yeah. I've been a lot of the games this year. I'm like forcing myself to like sleep in until like 11 o'clock noon because I don't want to wake up at like 10 and then just be like sitting here like this waiting to go to the field.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I know guys, I know there's so many starters, especially on our team, like they it's like their start day and they go to the field at like 1 o'clock first or 2 o'clock for a 7 o'clock game. I'm like, how do you just go and sit in the clubhouse and you're just sitting there and playing cards all day? Like I can't do it. I need to get there. It's like when I get to the field, it's like 3 hours before the game. Let's do the scouting meeting. Let's do this. I'm in the training room and then we go. That's how I am.
So you like to basically be busy the whole time you're there, so you don't have too much time to yourself. It's fascinating to see different guys do this. You know, I played with guys like Chris Bassett, who would show up at like
Mhm.
11 a.m. and play ping pong for 3 hours. That
Yeah.
was his method of kind of blocking it out. Max Scherzer and Verlander had the same rule where, like, once the headphones go on, it's a no-fly zone. Obviously, you saw that with Max. I always felt like the interesting difference between the two when I played with them is that Max would put on the headphones about 2 hours before the start, whereas JV would come to the field with the headphones on. So clearly he was wound pretty tight from the beginning, but
Yeah.
obviously able to channel that into really aggressive pitching out there. So it's just fascinating to me that emotional process of getting ready for a start for sure.
Yeah. All right. So I feel like I'm jumping around. What topic did you want me to focus on? The
No,
arm
no.
action change or?
Oh well, so yeah, so let me head back over here, and we'll just take a quick peek because I have you pulled up here. I was showing
Mhm.
the crowd a little bit here, the chat. a little bit of how tight your arm action is now. And my thought, because I remember when you did this, and I remember saying, because you did it around the same time as Joe Kelly and a few others, and this was kind of a
He did it before me. I feel like I got a lot of people gave me credit for this. And first of all, I deserve no credit. All the credit goes to Ethan Katz on my arm action change.
mm,
He's the current pitching coach for the White Sox. He was my pitching coach in high school. Basically, he had been my in my ear after every minor league season, after my first couple big league seasons. He'd be calling me up and be in the off season, be like, "Hey, I've been learning a lot of stuff. I have some drills I want to show you. I think it will really help you." And I'd be like, "Nah, I'm fine. I'm fine. I know what I'm doing. You know,
yeah.
I'm gonna go do my workouts. I'm gonna go do my throwing. Everything's good." I was just stubborn. And after that 2018 season that you pulled up, it was horrendous. I call him and I'm like, whatever you want me to do, I'm doing it.
Sometimes it takes that rock bottom moment to have full buy-in, right?
You needed the rock bottom. Needed the rock bottom for sure. So he introduced me to plyo balls. I had no idea what they were before that. Uh, he introduced me to core velocity belt. He just introduced me to like tools and drills. Um,
Yeah,
like actual like tools and drills with substance. And the first day that he put a plyo ball in my hand, it was the green one. I don't know what that weighs, but
yep,
uh, he's like, "All right, pivot pick. You're just going to throw this against the wall. You face the wall, and you're going to throw it against the wall." And I'm like, "Okay." And so I just like grab this thing and I do my long arm action and I throw it against the wall. And on my very first one, the whole front of my shoulder torched. I'm like,
yep.
"Oh, dude, what the hell? Like, what do you got me doing? That was terrible." And he's like, "Bro, of course it hurt. You're completely out of time. Your arm is late as hell. Like, you know, let's get this cleaned up." So he said to me like, "All right, let's do it again, but be athletic." And in my mind, be athletic is like a middle infielder. So I'm like, boom, shorter. Keeping the ball close to the ear, like a little bit shorter, and I'm just thinking like shortstop, second baseman. And I threw it and I'm like, "Oh, that felt better." And he's like, "All right, cool, let's stick with that." So I'm doing those, and then I'm doing like rockers, and I'm doing, the janitor throws, whatever. I'm doing these various uh he had just like learned some driveline stuff pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah,
And we did that. I didn't throw a baseball for like 2 or 3 weeks. We're just doing that. And then when I pick up a baseball and I start playing catch, like the very first day, throwing to 70 feet, I remember like throwing one with like the longer arm action and it felt foreign. It felt weird. And I was like, "Okay, that still feels weird. Let's try and throw it like I've been throwing my plyo balls and pretend like I'm a shortstop." And it's like the ball like kind of zipped out of my hand at low effort. And I'm like, "Ooh, that felt pretty good." So we just stuck with that. And that was kind of the beginning of all that stuff. The arm action change, everything became shorter.
it makes a lot of sense. And one thing when people ask me about weighted balls and some of the reasons why people would use them, I tell them a lot of times, like when you're holding a weighted implement, like something that's a lot heavier than a baseball, you have no choice but to be more efficient with your arm path. Because to your point before, if you try to go do something really long, you're going to end up putting yourself in a very compromised position, which you might not notice with a 5 ounce baseball. But it's a lot different when you're holding a 2 pound, plyo ball or whatever. So that's one of the main uses for it. And it's really nice and also very strange to have your high school pitching coach actually become your major league pitching coach.
Yeah.
That's the first I've ever heard of anything like that happening. But I also think just the efficiency of the movement, given that there's less overall total movement on the arm swing, it probably gave you a better idea of how to get to your release point more consistently. Does that make sense?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think.
it basically just killed excess movement. I'm very I'm big, tall, I'm 6'6", like really long arms. I'm not the best athlete in the world. And so
Join the club.
yeah, it just kind of cleaned things up. It made it so that I was able to like feel more consistent, like at landing. It's like I always know my arm is like up here somewhere, and then at extent, and then it kind of keeps it in its lane. That's how I would describe it. Like I don't have to worry about losing it anywhere back here.
Yeah, you have more margin for error. I would say that's
Yeah.
probably the key play there. So you end up going through your career now. After that point, you end up having a career year with the White Sox the very next season. After your career worst year, you bounce back to your very best year. That's something that's similar that happened to me in my career. I kind
Hmm.
of hit that rock bottom point. Went on a mission that offseason, came back, and was lights out that next year. That was you in 2019. 5.4 WAR, three CGs, two shutouts,
Hmm.
228 punchies. So um, it's amazing that player development sometimes takes all sorts of different twists and turns in a person's career. You're a high school righty, you throw 100 miles an hour with a curveball with an elbow that's about to blow. You end up blowing your elbow, but you still have that premium level of talent. So as you rise through the levels of the minor leagues, there's really nothing standing in your way. And it's not till the major league level where you start to realize that, hey, maybe I need to make some adjustments here. This is the big first adjustment that you make. And it seems to me, now that I've got to know you a little bit, being in spring training, and also just watching you on the mound this year, seems like also there's been a mentality adjustment over time and a lot more aggression, and that you found your level, your emotional level that you like to pitch at. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that was kind of like another mission that same off season after 2018 was I need to do something about the anxiety. I can't just like take two shots of whiskey before I pitch and think that that's gonna like solve it, you know?
Yeah,
So it's I was already I had already tried a bunch of things, you know, I over the years, and yeah, I was up on sports psychology. I've loved a lot of the sports psychologists that I've worked with on various teams, and you know I had a few tools in the tool bag there, but the problem was like the anxiety was so bad that like I couldn't even get to that. It's like how can I like think about like doing a deep breath when I can't feel my legs? You know what I mean? So uh that off season, you know, the one side was the physical side, all that work I did with cats, and then the other side was how do I fix my brain? And I got introduced to this thing called neurofeedback, uh, which when I first saw it, I was like, this is like pseudoscience. This is strange. I don't know what's going on. But I'm literally at rock bottom, so I'll try anything. And so I did a little trial. It's essentially it, I should find I should find like a more efficient way to explain it, but you have these things on your head that read your brain waves, and they connect your brain waves to like audio noises that are on headphones. uh it's like classical music sounds like violins and whatnot, and you do computer programs like exercises with the yeah with the I didn't have the full cap, but I had we I'd have to put like this I'd have to put this like glue on my head and then put the metal things onto my head.
yeah,
And you sit there with a computer screen, a computer program, and I would do two different kinds of exercises. The first one was like a focus exercise. So you have like audio feedback of what your brain waves are doing. And it's all about keeping the music, for me, at least the way I approach it, keep the music sounding nice. If you're relaxed, uh you know, you're not like twitching or grinding your teeth or, you know, looking around. If you're relaxed and focused on the task at hand, then your brainwaves stay chill and the music stays chill. If you're anxious or whatever, it starts sounding crazy. So the first thing is a focus exercise, and then the second thing is like a guided visualization where you you're given sorry I've been under the weather for like a week, but you're given these prompts for this visualization. Imagine yourself doing something that has been a challenge for you. Imagine yourself doing that something that's been a challenge for you, but you're succeeding. That kind of stuff. Feel the sights and the sounds, and the taste, and all that kind of stuff. But you're doing it with like this brainwave thing on, and it's like the same thing. It's like I'm doing this visualization, but I'm staying calm and I'm staying confident. I'm staying relaxed, and I want to keep it. I want to keep the music sounding good. And I was definitely skeptical, but I was doing it because I'm like, at least I'm doing something, right? It's better than doing. It's better than like going and doing my work at the gym and then coming home and like playing video games for 8 hours. At least I'm like doing something. I didn't know if I trusted it yet, but after like 2 or 3 weeks of doing it, I was like, oh yeah, I already feel excited and confident for this next season, which was not a feeling I had surround with baseball for a very long time. And so I stayed with it, and come 2019 season, there was none of that anxiety or anything like that. I felt very confident in my stuff. I felt very confident in how my body was moving. So I felt very confident that I could get big league hitters out consistently.
Is that still a cue for you? Like, make the music stay nice in my head? Like, is that how you
Mm-mm.
meet your emotional level, or is that evolved?
No, no, it's funny. Andrew's the guy that did the program for me. Still a good friend of mine, and I remember he said to me like somewhere along the first couple weeks of me doing it, and I marathoned like 30 plus sessions of this leading up to spring training, and he said to me somewhere along the line like, you know, neurofeedback's the kind of thing where like uh you do like 30 sessions, you do like one chunk of it, and then you never have to do it again. And I'm
Hmm.
like, that's a terrible business model. Why would you say
you
that?
got to keep me on the drip
you
here.
Yeah, you could have had me coming back for 10 years, man. um and it's funny, like I did end up going back to it like a couple years later, and even a year after that, and he was kind of right. Like it didn't quite hit exactly the same.
Right.
uh it it did such a good job of like eradicating that performance anxiety for me. And so I'm forever grateful for that. But yeah, I think that god, over time you have to find different ways of doing things if like the old way isn't quite working anymore.
Yeah. No, I think that's super key, and this is a really cool thing to talk about. Honestly, I've always believed, and stuff that I learned over my career is that the mental truly does control the physical. If you don't care, you don't take care of what's going on up here, you're gonna have a really hard time controlling all these limbs and making
Yeah.
really fine pitches in big moments. When I was talking about the emotional level, it's one of those things where I watch different guys pitch, and some guys need to come in breathing fire. They come in, they're pissed off, they hate everybody, they hate all the hitters, everybody's against them, and that's how they kind of find their aggression. I was always more of the opposite. Like I wanted to stay as calm as possible, but have like kind of a controlled aggression. So it's interesting to hear different people's approach to it, because at the end of the day, you want to have a consistent level that gives you the best chance at peak performance. So it's fascinating to hear you talk about your process with that. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem. I think for me, like in game, there's times it varies for me. There's times where I need to be like bringing my glove up and just like fuck this guy. I'm gonna dominate him. Blah blah blah. And then there's times where it just needs to be like fully on like, okay, execute. I'm
Yeah,
executing this.
yeah.
And it's more calm and kind of more reserved energy. um yeah, it's like different situations can call for different things.
Yeah, that's true. It's so true. It's so fascinating. So that kind of relates to my last thing. I'll let you go. I want to be respectful of your time. I know you got to get over to the ballpark today. Um, now you're late in this season. You had another injury last year, obviously, another, I'm pretty sure, Tommy John. You come back, end up with some leg stuff. You have a little bit of a delayed start to the season. You finally get out there for the first time in over a year. And now, finally, as you've gone through it, you've got, let's see where you're at now, 136 innings under your belt this year. We're in the home stretch. It's getting exciting. This is what we all play for. This is why you sign with the Red Sox, really. How
Hmm.
do you think your mindset has shifted throughout the course of this season? Because obviously it's a little tricky to access that compete mode right away. Of course, we all want to, but you're usually a little more internally focused when you come back from injury.
Yeah, well, it started out like kind of in panic mode because it wasn't those one of those things where it's like, all right, cool, I'm coming back from injury and everything feels great, and here I am competing again. It's never that easy. When I came back, my arm angle, or what do they call it? Release height,
Yeah, release height. Yeah,
release height, arm angle, everything was down.
everything was
Everything was
down.
down. Yeah, I felt like I was throwing sidearm. It
Yeah.
literally it felt like I was like an east to west, a three quarters pitcher. Uh,
So looks like you fixed it. I bet you're closer to 57 now. I bet you were way below 50 early in the year, and now it's equaled itself out because it has you at 52 degrees right now.
hmm
And it looks like in the White Sox days you were more 58, 57. So I'm assuming you were
Yeah. So do you
probably in the
see that?
40s. Yeah. So that
So there was that decline, and okay, that's actually cool to look at. So yeah, like 2020 is ideal. The same 21, 22. 2023 was a really down year for me. Unfortunately, it was my platform year. But it did lead me to coming here, which I think was such a blessing and awesome. Um, so uh, I came back from this surgery, and so I think this even happened before. In 23, my arm angle was starting to decline. I think it was just from wear and tear and not realizing it was happening,
yeah.
and it made my stuff suffer. Fastball's not riding as much. The changeup wasn't like, it didn't have that same effect that it had before, like right off of the fastball, and it was harder to throw my changeup for a strike. And I'm like, dang, what's going on? My changeup was also moving more horizontally, which I didn't like. I wanted it to be more straight. So then I blow out, and I came back, and I had been doing so much work in my rehab of like opening my shoulder back up and making sure everything was, in tip top shape for when I was returning to play. But my arm angle was still down. It was like 47.
Yeah, yeah. That's a
It
huge
was,
difference, and people at home might not understand because it's only looks like it's a couple degrees. But you could
yeah,
be, as a pitcher, you're used to bringing your arm through the same groove over and over and over again. So even like a 3 degree change is a big deal. Like in my career, I was like mainly 25-degree angle, but when I would get to like 27, 28, 29, it felt like I was throwing like an iron mic, and I know I wasn't. But that's a
yeah,
little bit of that feel versus real, so I can relate to that a little bit.
yeah. I remember in my throwing program, I'd be like, dude, why does it feel like I'm throwing like here to here instead of here to here?
Yeah,
It was a strange feeling, but I couldn't figure out how to fix it. And I had the leg stuff in spring training, hamstrings, whatever. I come back to the big leagues. My rehab outings most of them went horribly. I come back to the big leagues. My first start's actually not too bad. Uh, but then I'm starting to get exposed, and I can feel it. I'm like, oh, this isn't good. Then I had this really particularly horrible game against the Angels at home where, I gave up like 8 or 9.
yeah, here it is. 1.2 innings, 7 earned. Yeah, on
Yeah, 7.
yep. But then you ready the ship right after that.
So immediately after that game, I go to Bales and Devin and all the pitching guys, and I'm like, all right, like I want to look at the skeletons. We got to figure this out. This isn't sustainable, and I know that I can do a lot better than this. So we broke down the biomechanics and all that kind of stuff, and the skeletons came back, and they basically were overlaying the good skeleton versus the bad skeleton, right? The current version of me versus like the
The optimal version of you.
the optimal version, which was basically taking an average of like some, my best pitches over X amount of years. And what we found was that all of my like tilt was gone. I was like flat hipped. Yes, I was like flat hipped, flat shoulder going down the mound.
Mm-hmm.
And so it ended up being not, thankfully, not too difficult of a fix. In my throwing program, I just started focusing on like tilting my hips, which would then tilt my shoulders. And then we did some extra drills with the plyo balls and everything like that, and it kind of cleaned itself up. And it was one of those things where it's like the light bulb. You go out to play catch, and it's like the light bulb above your head goes off. I don't know if you ever had moments like that. Um,
Yeah, totally.
and I go out to play catch, and we were in New York. Luckily, I wasn't pitching against the Yankees then because I would not have been prepared. Uh, and I just get really good work in, and it got my arm angle back up again, like in a natural way, just
Yeah,
focusing on the hips and the shoulders.
right. It had downstream effect. You didn't force the arm. You kind of fixed something else, and it ended up fixing, getting you right back in that natural slot.
Yeah. So once I got my natural slot, it's like, okay, cool, I'm me again. Now we can work.
Now we
And
go.
that's been the rest of the year.
And then it's just focus on compete and just grind in the rest of the way.
Exactly.
That's awesome, man. Thank you so much for sharing that. You've been a pleasure to watch. This Red Sox team's been awesome to watch. Really excited to see how it goes down the stretch. Really thankful for your time today, Lucas. This has been awesome. You're the first
Yeah.
guest. You're the first guest. I didn't know yesterday when I wrote you, you're going to say, "How about tomorrow?" But I love the enthusiasm, and I'm glad
Yeah,
we got
sure.
it. I'm glad we got it figured out on the stream. That took a little while.
Yeah.
But dude, I mean, thank you so much. It's so fascinating. And for the kids out there, before I let Lucas go, just remember the mental controls the physical, and sometimes it's not your arm. It could be your hip. It could be something else. So get with somebody who has some really actual knowledge, not just pseudo knowledge. He was talking a lot about how the Red Sox showed him some skeletons, some actual data, some facts, not just opinions, which is the beautiful thing about baseball today. You don't have to rely on a coach saying, I kind of feel this way, try that. No, we have actual data that we can look at and make some adjustments. So that's in real time. A big league starter, an awesome big league starter, showing us how he was able to take advantage of that information during a season. So thank you so much, man. Good luck the rest of the way. I'll be rooting for you guys. I'll be pulling for you guys big time. Thank you so much for coming on, man.
Yeah. Appreciate it, Adam. For sure.
All right, I'm gonna say goodbye. I'm gonna kick you off here, and I will see you. I'll see you in a couple days. We'll stay in touch, man. Have a good one.
All right, cool. Thanks, bro.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
for sure. See ya.
All right, peace. All right, I am gonna kick him off. I'm not sure how to do that. Let's see. Stop virtual camera. Does that do it? Yep, he's gone. All right. I thought that went really well for the first time, except for the brutal uh, entry point. But big thanks to Gio for being the first guy to come on. He talked about some really heavy topics. Obviously, the mental game. He had to fix his physical and his mental a couple different times during his career so far. And he's having a good year right now. He's in the thick of it with the Red Sox. This is the most fun time of year. So big thanks to Lucas for taking a little time out of his morning, which is really the early afternoon. Early afternoon is morning for a ball player. So we're really appreciative of that.